City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and continue our meeting here. We do not have any announcements this evening or proclamations. We do have a presentation. It's the Employee Service Award, Anthony Novak, 25 years of service.
Good evening, everyone. Anthony Novak has been with the city for 25 years, and I feel that any job, that's an accomplishment. But dealing with plow trucks for 25 years is impressive or crazy. He is extremely dedicated to his job, and his dedication keeps the city moving forward and has for 25 years. The plow trucks take a lot of effort and are tricky. You want to say anything?
Been a long time, 25 years. Doesn't seem like it, but seen him, friends come and go, and it's just keep moving forward. It's family here. All it is. Everybody that I know that comes in and out, see a lot of police, fire, and everyone. So it's great. Everybody is, great that comes in the shop and leaves. So, but hope to get a few more years in, even with my bad jokes.
Go ahead. You know you want to. I can tell you, I'm having heart palpitations by how close he is to a microphone right now. With the amount of jokes he tells.
Thank you very much.
Anthony is never short of a joke, and I've been here almost 20 years, and I've known him for all of that time, and he's an extraordinary employee for the city of Fishers, and keeps the trains running on time and doing well. And Tabitha is exactly right. He's been a great asset to this city, and a lot of nights away from home working on snow plows during the middle of a snowstorm where everyone else is sitting at home warm and cozy. He's probably under a plow truck trying to get it back on the road in a safe and efficient manner. So Anthony, you and your family, we greatly appreciate all you've done for the city.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's impressive, 25 years of service, and your job is very crucial in our operations. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I will tell you the joke he told me in the hallway.
Oh, boy.
Was he said, I got a joke for you, Scott. How many employees work at City Hall? And I said, I don't know. How many? He goes, about half.
Thank you, Anthony. We're moving on to council committee reports. John Weingart will share the finance committee report.
Sure. Thank you, Cecilia. The Budget and Finance Committee met last Wednesday and submitted a number of items we requested that the council approve tonight. Item 8, request to approve the municipal budget. Item 9, the salary ordinance. Item 10, to approve the general obligation bond. Item 11, on economic development fund. Item 12, on park impact fee. And item 13, on road impact fee fund.
Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate it. Department reports. The health department report is listed on the website for anyone that's interested to learn more about the latest on the health department. We're moving on to item 7, the consent agenda. Is there
A motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Motion by
Second.
John Weingart, second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We're moving on to the regular agenda, business and financial, item A, 090924. This is a request to approve the 2025 municipal budget. And Elliot Holcomb is going to be sharing what our recommended budget is for 2025.
Right, and good evening, Council President Coble and Council. For the record, Elliot Holkern, Deputy Mayor, honored to be before you this evening for the second reading of the 2025 municipal budget. I assure you I will be brief this evening. There is no changes from the first reading and public hearing we held last month on this topic. It's worth noting this is the 8th public hearing on the 2025 municipal budget. I want to take a moment to thank our Finance Committee for the weeks and month-long effort to work through this process. I want to specifically acknowledge Finance Committee Chairman John Weingart for his leadership throughout this process. So in total, high-level summary, $184.79 million is the total budget request for the 2025 fiscal year. That's both operating capital as well as our debt service payments. It is worth noting that this will be the 4th year in a row of either a flat or reduced tax rate. So we are at pre-2020 levels with this tax rate for 2025. And also, it's worth noting that our cash reserve policy requires us to be at $16.669 million for 2025. This budget, before this evening, will have us at $31 million for a cash reserve for 2025. And finally, some highlights. Again, we covered this over the last 7 public hearings. But again, the property tax rate does remain unchanged for the 4th consecutive year. We're taking care of the fantastic employees we have, the best municipal employees in the entire Midwest, with a 6% raise across all city staff. As you well know, we're going to open the community center in October of 2025. So this affords us money to appropriate to establish that with a dozen full-time employees and an operational budget. Continued investment in our public school system, right? So $50,000 towards the innovation grant for our teachers, as well as continued experiential learning programming at both the Agri Park and Makerspace. The one change we did early in the process, which we bumped the community neighborhood grant program back up to $400,000 for 2025. That was a wildly popular program in the past several years. And again, of course, it's not a year in City of Fishers without some road projects. And so continued investment in our road resurfacing and road projects for 2025. Again, I'd like to thank you guys. We feel confident in this budget. We're ready to go execute in 2025, pending your approval this evening.
Thank you, Elliot. Are there any questions from council regarding the 2025 proposed budget?
I guess I have some comments. First, I want to thank you, Elliot, and Lisa Bradford, and all your team for spending countless hours on our budget process. You guys come together and do an outstanding job. This was a tremendous collaboration between our team within the city and also our council members that are on the committee. We had a very, very lengthy discussion one day with a number of the department heads, had a very long discussion about their budgets, about what they were doing, what their goals and objectives were. So I feel this is a very open and very transparent process. We had a number of meetings that the public could have come to. Also want to thank my committee members of Bill Stewart, Cecilia Coble, Selena Stoller, and John DeLucia for their, especially John and Bill, this is kind of your first trip around the budget merry-go-round, and went through a very good process. And it's just some of the comments I will make is, this is going to become a little more of our budget and finance committee is going to become a little more kind of, I wouldn't say hands-on, but just watching them, because things are going to be a little bit different. We've got an event center coming online with multiple sources of income that we're going to have to watch that. We have a community center coming online that's going to have some different sources of income. We're going to be looking at evaluating costs, whether, fees and, sewage rates and other rates that, do they make sense to keep them where they are and maybe raise them incrementally rather than coming before the community with waiting 5 years to do something and be very costly. And certainly lastly, looking at all the infrastructure needs. I mean, I know our neighbor to the west has some issues on park infrastructure, how they're going to fund that. We don't have those issues, unfortunately. But again, we have to be cognizant that we have a number of things that, as we grow as a community, as we provide additional services, amenities, that we're going to have to be watchful over the entire financial operation of this city. So, great job. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Any questions, Brad? No? Okay.
I'll make
Is
a
there
motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by John Weingart, second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, budget passes. Thank you.
Well done, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9090924B. This is a request to approve the 2025 salary ordinance.
Good evening, Council. Ethan Lee, Director of Human Resources. I'm here to present the second reading of the 2025 proposed salary ordinance. This ordinance established the maximum biweekly salary for all of our positions in the city. It includes the 6% increase and all other factors as far as the annual budget is concerned. Otherwise, or has no financial impact. I do want to call out a change from the first reading where we made an addition where in fire department, moving the community risk reduction specialist and external affairs officer to a higher salary grade, but otherwise all the position changes do stay the same on the salary ordinance. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the salary ordinance? Seeing none, is there a motion to
Make a
approve
motion.
the salary ordinance? Motion by John Weingart, is there a second? Second by Bill Stewart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 10-090924A. This is a request to approve the 2024 general obligations bond.
Thank you. For the record, Lisa Bradford, City Controller. This is your second reading of the 2024 general obligation bond. As we discussed during the budget process, this is our annual one-year general obligation bond that is used to fund a lot of our fleet capital needs and a lot of our road infrastructure projects. There's one small change from the version you saw last month, and that is an increase to the actual principal amount, and that is due to some financing options we think are coming on with Geist Park. And so what this does is allow us to keep our debt service amount the same in totality, but shift those savings and allow us to do some more projects with that extra funding. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Lisa? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Motion to approve by Todd Zimmerman. Is there a second? Second. Second by John Weingart. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Lisa. Item 11, we've got is R100724C. This is a request to approve additional appropriation economic development fund, and this will require a public hearing.
Thank you. For the record, I'd like to speak, if you will allow me to go ahead and talk about items 11, 12, and 13, the three additional appropriations, just all together, and then we can have the public hearing, but just it'll probably be easier to speak about them together. So the first item before you is an additional appropriation for the Economic Development Fund. As you'll recall, this is the fund that is set up and does pay the debt service payment for the Fishers Event Center. As you just adopted the 2025 budget, you will recall that when we did adopt a small budget for the Economic Development Fund in 2024, at the time when we adopted the budget, we had not made the decision whether we would roll the financing we had, which was a bond anticipation note, or permanently finance the event center. So that decision was made post-budget adoption. At the time, we decided to go ahead and permanently finance. So what this additional appropriation does is cover the upcoming debt service payment for the Fishers Event Center. And this is really just a matter of timing as the budget was adopted prior to the permanent financing occurring. The other two items before you related to road impact fees and park impact fees are additional appropriations of revenue that we have received here in 2024. We were conservative but reasonable in our 2024 budget. We've had some projects come online that were significant in their size. For example, the Kroger at 116th and Allisonville, that impact fee came in this year, and so that has significantly increased the revenue in both those funds from our initial budget estimate. And so this will allow us to spend this funds in the budget year. Predominantly, the park impact fees will be going to the new building at the Agri Park as they finally get their restrooms out there, which I know has been an ongoing project and a need out there for a number of years. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions regarding item 11, 12, and 13? Economic Development Fund, the park impact or the road impact fee? Okay. Chris, can I go ahead and open up the public comment and people can comment on all three, or can we?
Let's take it one at a time.
One at a
Let's just do
time?
a public
Okay,
hearing,
we'll
and then you
open-
can vote on the resolution.
Okay, perfect. Okay. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for item 11, R110724C, regarding the additional appropriation for the Economic Development Fund. Anyone wishing to speak could come to the podium, state your name, and give your address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. So it looks like we have nobody, so we'll close the public hearing for item 11. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for item 12.
Can you just take a vote on 11 then?
What's that? Okay, okay, is there a motion to approve item 11? Motion by Todd Zimmerman, second by John DeLucia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Item 12, R100724B, the request to approve an additional appropriation park impact fee fund. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing there's nobody coming up, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Todd Zimmerman, second by John Weingart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13, R100724A, the request to approve an additional appropriation regarding the road impact fee fund. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the podium. Seeing that there's nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Todd Zimmerman. Is there a second? Second by John DeLucia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 14, 100724. This is an ordinance regarding amending the authorization for the issuance of the Indiana Taxable Economic Development Revenue Funds, Revenue Bonds, Series 24D, and we have Lisa Bradford.
Thank you. Lisa Bradford, City Controller. I do apologize. The item before you was not at Finance Committee last Wednesday. This is an item that has just come up as we have looked to go and finance the City View project. As part of that financing, the initial bond ordinance that was approved only allowed for the permanent financing. As we've explored the market a little more, we're starting to look at whether a bond anticipation note would be more advantageous in the current market, and we do not have that flexibility as the bond ordinance was initially written. So the item before you simply adds the language allowing us to do a bond anticipation note if that turns out to be the most feasible and economical route for us to go moving forward. But we wanted to have that flexibility, and the previous documents did not provide that. Happy to answer any questions, but due to the timing of the financing, we are asking to suspend the rules and pass tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions regarding this?
So it's literally just adding the ability to do.
Yes.
Are we suspending rules on first reading or on second reading? I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and pass on first reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
approved by John Weingart, second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we're moving on to economic development, item 15, R100724E. This is a resolution approving the restated project agreement, City View.
Yes, for the record, Megan Baumgartner, Director of Community and Economic Development. It might seem like you saw something similar last month, which you did, but there's some further clarifications, much like Lisa found as they were getting ready for closing, just some consistencies that we wanted to put into our project agreement. One of those is extending this closing date to December 31st. Their intention is to close at the beginning of November, but I think we're all watching the stock market to see if Feds decrease rates, which obviously then saves a significant amount of money for a project of this size. Also, some further clarifications on the city reimbursing the developer for some of these costs that we had committed previously on doing the work for. It just makes more sense for us to reimburse the costs instead of going through public bidding in our procurement process for that. And those are the main items that we're requesting get changed and updated in our project agreement. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions on this for Megan?
I think that's a wise move.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Todd Zimmerman. Is there a second? Second by Bill Stewart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Moving on to government miscellaneous item 16090924D. This is a request to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 51 related to rates and charges for the use of sanitary sewage and garbage trash refuse, and establishing service rates and charges for trash, recycling, solid waste, disposal, et cetera. There will be a public hearing regarding this item here.
Thank you. Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. I was here last month and did the presentation for first reading. There's been just a couple of changes. First is in the HSE sewer section. We set out the actual fee for each HSE customer. The way it read before, it was a base fee plus a $4.75 tracker. It's a little confusing for those looking for their actual rate, so we just combined it in that table. So the rate that former HSE customers will be looking at is the actual rate that they will pay. And then the second is in the trash fee, and it just sets out the priority of the payment to any payments being applied first to late fees, then to sanitary, then to stormwater, and then to trash collection fees. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions related to this item tonight by council? Okay. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak related to this item dealing with sewer, trash, service rates, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Josh User, 12863 Shakespeare Way. I'd like to take a quick look back to just 2 years ago at the September 2022 City Council meeting, where Deputy Mayor Elliot Holtgren stood before you and introduced a new, exciting quality of life investment to be known as the Fishers Event Center. The $9 million annual debt service for the event center would include a myriad of different sources, including the food and beverage revenue.
Excuse me, Josh, are you going to speak about this specific item or the event center? We're talking about trash right now.
Yeah, so so I'll get to the point then. So basically there's a $1.5 million payment in lieu of taxes that was sourced from excess sewer proceeds that would be used to fund the event center. That was simply 2 years ago, and now the city's asking for a $3 rate increase on the sewer fees. And at that meeting 2 years ago, Deputy Mayor Elliot Holtgren stood before you and proclaimed how efficient the combined operations were, that after the operational cost, after the acquisition costs, and after the planned capital improvements, there was $1.5 million left in the sewer fund, which was going to be reallocated to pay for debt service on the event center. Again, the event center has yet to open, and now we're asking for an increase in rates, and so I'm just asking to see where that money's going and why 2 years ago we had such a surplus and now we don't.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak about trash, the service, sewer? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Mayor, do we have any information we can provide related to that comment? I mean, the sewer fees need to be...
We have not raised sewer rates in 15 years or something to that effect. So the ability for us to meet the cost of inflation on energy prices, on labor costs, things of that nature, we think it's appropriate to look at a $3 increase. That was justified by a rate study that was completed. And the rate study actually recommended an $8 increase, and we said that we didn't need to go that far, that we think a $3 is more appropriate. The pilot payment in lieu of taxes is actually in response to the fact that prior to this, it was a private utility and it paid property taxes to the city. So in exchange for that, we're now collecting that as general fund dollars because it was paying roughly that amount in property taxes prior to this. So I think we're still consistent with everything that we planned and every financial forecast that we had.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve item 16? So moved. Motion by John Weigart, is there a second? Second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 17, 081924C. This is a request to approve the amendment to Chapter 98 of the Municipal Code, City of Fishers Municipal Code related to noise. And this is third reading, and there will be an opportunity for the audience to come up and make public comments related to this new proposed noise ordinance.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Assistant Chief Mike Taylor, FPD. As you stated, this is the third reading. We've done quite a bit of work between last month's meeting and tonight. We had some meetings with specific businesses who came forward and spoke last month to you all and presented some concerns, issues that they would have had with the proposed numbers at 70 decibels. We also met with the HOA leadership of the most impacted neighborhood down there. Met with one representative that did attend that meeting. Myself and other members of the police department did go out and take several measurements on nights where there was live music or multi-instrument musician bands, and marked distances from the stage of the music, not just at King Jug off Atlanta Road, but also Parks Place Pub, who had come forward and spoke, and we found a couple things. One of those are primarily of importance is we went when they were not even open and found that there was noise that was exceeding that 70 decibel mark. A lot of that was impact from traffic on I-69 for King Jug and then 116th Street traffic for Park Place Pub. When we went out and took measurements with live music, a majority of those measurements were surprisingly lower in the evening with less traffic, would make sense. Either high 60s or low 70s at times, mid or upper 70s. So we proposed a change from second read to now in this amendment. The level would be 80 decibels and 50 feet from the property line as a measurement. Another point of contention in the summary chart that we had was there were multiple kind of stipulations or points of measurement, which would be confusing not only for residents, business owners, but also our officers, frankly, to be able to take action or enforce it. We clean that up. It's simply 50 feet from the property line, 80 decibels, and that's specific to sound device. That 80 decibel mark and the distance is the same outside of music devices, but it's business sounds, etc. And then the same rules apply for any noise during overnight hours. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time if there are some.
Chief Taylor, could you clarify, you said a couple times there 50 feet from the property line. In this, if I recall correctly, I haven't reviewed it, it's 50 feet from a resident's property line, not the business property line, is that correct?
So it's 50 feet from the source of the property line where the noise is coming from, 50 feet from that line. What is different, Mayor, and I appreciate you bringing it up, is there's also provisions with 50 feet within a shared residential space, multi-unit housing, similar to above Parks Place. When we took our measurements, we were able to get up on the second, third floors, take readings, and they were actually below 70 during the live band performance, but that's going to be impacted with insulation, building materials, etc. So.
And you feel that by doing this, it's better for enforcement purposes and?
Well, as I stated previously, we've had 10 years since we changed or addressed it. I do think this is a very positive step in the right direction, not just for the police department, but primarily for the community as a whole and also the business community to try and come together with the development that we've had. If we find that it's not working for all, we'd be happy to take a look and try and find another resolution or make changes again. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments, questions? Bill, I know that affects your district.
And I appreciate all the work that's been done on this. So I just want to be clear, because I think there's some misconception because of the way this has evolved through the legislative process. on first and second reading, we were at 70 decibels. And now we've changed that along the way to 80 decibels, correct?
That is correct, sir, yes.
All right. And at 80 decibels, as opposed to 70 decibels, will big bands like the Y Store still be allowed to perform at that location?
Well, from a police department standpoint, we're not able to regulate who plays where, but if they would be in excess of if they're in excess of the ordinance, we'll certainly take action.
Well, I was just using the Y Store as an example of a very low.
Yes, sir.
So, as you know, a month ago we were here, and at 70 decibels, we were told that bands wouldn't be allowed at that level. And so it looks like we're now moving the decibel level upward so that they can still perform there.
Well, sir, separate from that, what we found is we attended both of these businesses when they weren't even open, and the noise, given the time of day and traffic from the highway, was at 70.
That's besides the point, excuse me. That's kind of besides the point. And because we talked at the previous council meeting, we weren't talking about the highway. We're talking about from the source of the sound.
Correct.
The source of the sound.
Correct.
Everybody knows we got I-69 running through the middle of Fishers. That's kind of irrelevant to this discussion. My point is, and I just want the council to know, is we're moving the threshold up, and in my opinion, based upon the comments and the conversations from the HOA that I've had, we're not solving a problem. And so I'm anxious to hear the public debate. I just want the council to be very aware that what you heard a month ago is different than what you're hearing tonight on what's allowable at the decibel level. But I do appreciate all the work that's gone into this.
Yeah, and if I could explain, I guess the reason that the change was determined to be valid or warranted is because when the business is not even operating, it was already exceeding a 70 level mark with no patrons or no music. So trying to find a happy medium that serves all.
We mean just like empty? Is that or what?
Yes, ma'am. Not even open for business.
Because that's coming from the freeway or the?
Correct. And it'd be the same for Parks Place on 16th Street.
Okay.
So, Chief Taylor, if we could reset this a little bit, what was our ordinance prior to us considering any kind of change?
So the previous ordinance was at 90 decibel mark, and there were also a lot of nuances to that. Factors from distance from a device, what constituted noise from a device or patrons, et cetera. So we've worked to clean that up. We did find in our experience, Mayor, that 90 was a level that was rarely caught. And the measurements that we took here previously with live bands at venues where we most recently had issues were nowhere near that 90 mark, but we're still trying to come down and find something that works for all.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever get was there a reading from, I know there's one particular band that you mentioned, was there ever a reading that was established during that time that as a baseline to what is causing most of the angst?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that I've stood in the neighborhood on band night, and whatever the reading was too loud. I mean, you could, and it's particularly the bass that you hear, right? And I had one woman that lives on the corner that she just said, "I'm moving because of this," and she was the one with the 18-month-old child. So to answer your question, I don't know what the baseline was because I was just listening with my ears.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes to, you can establish that source a little bit, and some of the stuff, though, that I think trouble with enforcement is if you come to my house, and I'm not arguing your point, I'm just giving you an example of what, if you come to my house at 116th Street in roughly Hoosier Road area, and come to my house at 9:30 at night, you can feel the bass from Ruoff, literally in my in my house at 116th. I almost can audibly, which saves a lot of money, I can go to concerts, you know, for free in my living room. But, I mean, you can feel it. So I think some of it, I'm not trying to downgrade the conversation or the trouble people are having at their homes, because that is personal. To them, that's a personal space, and I understand that. I think it's really, really difficult from an enforcement mechanism, because if Chief Taylor's right in saying that at 70 is highway noise, you know, with nothing, it's difficult for them to enforce, hey, I'm gonna cite you, I'm gonna shut you down, when the base information there, they would have to even read it, is what the environment is already on what they can view. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate with it, because I understand that when somebody has lived there for a long time and we've built the community up around them, that there's tension that is caused in that and some stuff. So it's hard, you know what I'm saying? It's hard for me to, like, where to land on that, because I just don't want to cause something where we're shutting down business, but at the same time, I don't want to overdo it where they can't do anything. So that's kind of.
But I think the issue is the base, and the issue is that they're big bands. They're not small little acoustic, show, or, they're big bands that normally play like in big venues or indoors, or, so, well, Brad. Yeah.
I agree with Todd. I live over 2 miles away from Ruoff, and we can hear the bass setting out in the patio, and sometimes if the wind is good, the whole concert not have to pay for it. But just using a decimeter here, Bill, you were averaging 75 to 81 just in your talk, just to let you know.
That's great. Ruoff has been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
These people have been there for 40 years, and the bar came to them. And, it's real easy for us to sit here and say that Ruoff is loud. Well, I mean, these bands are 150 feet from somebody's bedroom.
No, I understand that. I'm not trying. I hope you hear me right. I'm not trying to argue that. I
hear you.
I get the passion behind it, and like I said, I don't live right there, so it's hard for me to. I'm not experiencing what they're experiencing. I'm just trying to figure out what we're directing, our officers to do from legislative point of view, when some environmental things are going on too. So it's hard to.
It might be good to
We'll
let.
open up public comment. I'd like to hear
Yeah,
from
I think
anyone
that'd
that's here. So at this time, if there was anyone here to talk about the noise ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Fred Shield, 8488 Pioneer Trail. Talk about the noise ordinance. It's the base more than anything. When you come home from a 12-hour shift, trying to help your kid with homework, getting ready for soccer, and all you hear is boom, 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 boom. Then you start playing Name That Tune. I'm a half mile down the road. I'm in my house doing this 3 nights a week, 2 of them school nights. That's the biggest issue. If you're going to say the base peaks are going to stop at 80, perfect. Because at 80 at King Jug, half mile down the road, I'm not going to hear it in my house. But if you're saying the level's going to be 80 and the base peaks are still going to hit 105, 106, I'm playing Name That Tune in my house. That's the big issue. It's 3 nights a week, not to mention when it drags into parking. That's a whole other issue. Patrons come, park on the street, urinate in our bushes, yell at us for asking them to stop. That's the King Jug issue. Friday night, no band. Place was full. So him saying he's going to go out of business with no bands, I don't really agree with that. Completely full 9:30 at night. He's doing plenty of business without a band. That's really all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to please come up and state your name and address for the record?
Hi, we are John and Andrea Jones. We're the homeowners at 8508 Pioneer Trail. Our home sits 4 houses from the corner of Fishers Point Boulevard and Pioneer Trail and looks onto the park the parking lot of Cheney Creek Nature Preserve. We have lived in our home for 12-plus years. Our front porch, the corner of my front porch that I enjoy sitting on, is 722 feet from the center of their stage at King Jugs. While I am confident you are all versed on the history of King Jugs, it's important for our history as a homeowner near King Jugs to be heard. In our opinion and experience, the original establishment, Meals on Wheels, was a great addition to the community and the neighboring neighborhoods. Loved the convenience of their takeout and delivery process and was a patron. Had many pleasant interactions with Randy and Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels added the fenced-in outdoor space, playing light, quiet, mostly acoustic music, and it was a lovely addition to the neighborhood. I repeat, it was light, quiet, and acoustic. At that time, it also faced east, away from the adjoining neighborhood that was established well before the mixed-use space. Noted it was lovely and had intentions of going and engaging in the subdued experience. Then it was given the permission to become King Jugs and allowed to expand and expand again, creating what is now a bar serving food. Truly, call it what it is. It is a bar, nightclub, serving food in my neighborhood. By definition, from collinsdictionary.com in American English, a nightclub, a place of entertainment, open until late at night, formally offering food, drink, sometimes a floor show, dancing, but now usually featuring loud, amplified music. Stated on the King Jugs website, their goal is to craft beer you'll fall in love with and can drink for an entire afternoon or evening in my neighborhood. With these expansions, specifically talking about noise, our neighborhood ambiance and the ambiance of Cheney Creek Nature Preserve has been extremely disrupted. I see them. I just want to make it clear, 722 feet. I sent you all an email today with a video from my front porch when I can sing along to the lyrics, not only on my porch, but in my home at the current decibel reading that's allowed. 7 decibels is a win for our neighborhood. Finally, let this neighborhood win.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak about the noise ordinance, please come up to the podium, state your name, address for the record. Looks like we don't have anybody else wanting to speak. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments, John?
So the Y store specifically, when we knew they were performing there, and I couldn't tell you what that date was because it was prior to this amendment ever coming forward, we were there, had a decibel meter, and what we could enforce at the time was 90, and had them turn it down to measure that. I can tell you since September 1st, the police department has received 2 calls for service for King Jug. Those readings during live music, 130 feet from the stage, was 69 decibels from a certified decibel reader, and the other one from Lantern and Fishers Point Boulevard, 48 feet, was at 72 decibels. And I completely understand the frustration with bass, and we've had it and experienced it with churches throughout the community with music at 7 a.m. on Sundays. There are different things that impact noise and how it travels. I'm not a scientist and can't begin to explain it. What I can tell you is that for our officers, the 90 mark was difficult, if not unenforceable. It had an impact at the time on the water, which was an issue then, but with the development and changes, it's kind of caused us some grief. So,
I think one thing to think about too here as a council, one is you're not passing a constitutional amendment. I mean, this is implement a reduction, see if that affects what you want to see. But I also, and Billy and I had this conversation this morning,
you're not passing an ordinance for one specific issue. You're passing a citywide noise ordinance. So I want to make sure we're not crafting a solution for just one, but then it has a lot of unintended consequences in a variety of other places. So, I think one thing to think about is, do you implement this and then commit to revisiting, 90 days and see whether or not it accomplishes what we set out to do? Because there's nothing that prohibits this council from coming back and reducing it further or amending or adjusting. We haven't evaluated or adjusted this ordinance since probably...
It's been at least 10 years.
10 years, and the city of Fishers has changed significantly in its form and function. And so we're headed in the right direction to try to alleviate some of the concerns of the residents. I don't think anyone here is saying it's going to be the end-all, be-all perfect solution, but we can try it, implement it, see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, we still have the opportunity to come back and have this discussion again.
I agree. I think it moves it towards the direction, Bill, that you're trying, and I believe the residents are trying to get to. Whether it arrives at that or not is debatable and up, for evaluation down the road. I also want to be cognizant of the fact that as we continue to grow, for instance, in the district area, there are homes right there. And outside of the new event center, there's going to be more, what we think, there's going to be more restaurants and nightlife and just different things that are going to be the same conversations. And it's important that we're thinking about the entire totality of the city and not just one little aspect, while at the same time listening and responding to that, because it's not just because we're looking citywide. We want to hear people's voices, and we want to make sure it's the best we can possibly do, and hope that there's good neighbors on both sides of this, right? But that business owners will listen to the residents and listen to their concerns and address those when they come up. I just want to be cognizant that we don't create something that creates more problems in and around the city of Fishers than what we currently have, and have officers responding to different things, and so that's where I don't understand decibel readings in the sense of, if there's 70 already in just a static location, like where we get to, if they can have any music at all, if we had it at 70, because it's naturally would be above that. Just if you add any kind of instruments or any kind of conversation in that area, it would naturally go above that 50 feet from the source, which is what we're measuring, according to this ordinance.
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
sir. And we, from an enforcement standpoint,
property line, yeah.
From an enforcement standpoint, our officers have no means of discerning what noise is contributing to that meter directly.
An officer's just gonna hold that instrument up there, and
Yes, sir.
whatever that reading is how they decide what to do. Just
Yes,
like like a radar gun. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So does it complicate things then to make it different depending on the entertainment? If it's acoustic, it's this. If it's a big band, it's this, and control the bass.
My humble opinion is, from an enforcement standpoint, yes, it does make it more difficult. From a zoning standpoint, that's beyond my level of expertise as an assistant chief. I do know that the management or owner group from King Jug in our meeting last week discussed voluntarily going to all acoustic here in the future or next season. But again, we don't, from a police standpoint, don't have control over impacting what they...
I think there's three different kind of buckets here. One is simply a noise ordinance, and we need to keep this as simple and straightforward as we can for our officers, so that they're measuring a particular input at that moment, and then they can go correct course if need be. That's a noise ordinance. Whether they can have acoustic or live bands or whatever, our zoning department is trying to research that as to what can we do from a zoning perspective, a use perspective. I don't have the answers for that tonight, but we're exploring that to understand, are there limitations that can be put on that kind of behavior in those areas? I don't know the answers to that yet tonight, because imagine trying to define what that means or looks like. Could be some work. The third piece of this is parking, as it was said by a resident earlier. That's also something that we're evaluating, whether or not we can create some solutions to keep cars out of the neighborhood. So there's a multi-pronged approach here to try to alleviate some of the concerns of residents, and I don't think it's appropriate to put it all into the noise ordinance. Because remember, the noise ordinance is universally applied across the entire city. I think this is a step in the right direction. We can go try to address those other items through various means to try to accomplish the same outcome, which is we want these folks to coexist. We would love nothing more than the residents to celebrate that area or that business as a local neighborhood hangout spot. But I also understand that they don't want to have a nuisance of listening to loud thumping bass music when they're trying to do homework with their kids. Hopefully we can find a way through this, either through voluntary compliance or through these levers that we can pull to accomplish it.
Yeah, my thoughts about this, first of all, I've got some concerns about, an establishment being a good neighbor. And being a good neighbor is trying to hopefully go to an acoustic route for that particular facility. All things, but I also want to give you the tools to be able to do your job and not have a real, line of sight on how you can do your job. But the bigger issues, we've got some things you need to work on. I need to really work with these neighborhoods, make sure things that are outside of this, the noise, some of the other things that this gentleman mentioned tonight, which again, I would be very upset as well. It's just, this is a start, but I think it's something we have to continue to look at and refine from a number of different levels to give these folks a home that they can enjoy and live in, which that's what they bought. It's their biggest investment.
And I applaud you and the Chief Taylor and the residents and the business owners and Councilor Stewart for leading this conversation. Anything meaningful in life that creates change, there are steps to that. And so all these conversations have created a dialogue that's creating steps. It's, potentially changing and adjusting first step here legally, and then see where that lands us. I think it's a good first step, so.
Well, I just hope that, the businesses can be good neighbors to the residents there. It is a step, but I'm gonna continue to look at this. If there continues to be an issue, then we're gonna have to, reevaluate. But keep in mind, like what the mayor said, that this is for the whole city, and we need a way to enforce it, and this is a start. So, and I appreciate all the work, as this takes time to put this together, to come up with a plan, at least a starting point, right? Brad, do you have any comments or anything? Oh.
Just
Bill?
a couple follow-up questions. Remind me when you went recently and did the readings, I'm sorry, I don't have that map with me. What was the highest level on Band 9?
The highest level on band night was 78.2.
Where was that measurement taken, Mike?
Sorry, we had the exhibits to put the map upstage. So that one was directly southwest. That'd be at the corner of, that's Fisher's Point. And that'd be just west of Lantern, next intersection. That's 160 feet from the stage. Approximately 550 feet from the stage into the neighborhood, the readings were 61.5 and 63.4.
78, the 78 was how many feet?
That was 160 feet from the stage and 110 from the property line, sir, south of.
So you can, so they were, well, we were at 70 a month ago, now we're at 80. I'd be, if as long as we're not amending the Constitution, I appreciate that, Mayor, and I appreciate the conversation we had this morning. I know you and your staff are working in the right direction on this, and I appreciate that.
We've heard from the.
Were these taken though after this conversation started about reducing the noise level? Because he has turned the volume down voluntarily to a degree. So if he's taking these readings on band nights after this discussion of ordinance is taking place, he's already volunteered to turn it down. What's to stop him from next April
Well, I think a middle ground is maybe not 80, but maybe, we were at 70, now we're at 80. Maybe we meet in the middle at 75 and try that and see what works. So I'd make that in form of a motion as an amendment to the ordinance.
What is 75? Does 75 do anything?
Man, my recommendation, along with what the mayor stated, is it's not a king jug ordinance, it's a city ordinance across the entire city. And our officers are responding to noise complaints at residences and neighborhoods. We're going into neighborhoods that have properties that are over the size of an acre. So it's not just, that's why I bring up the zoning standpoint, as types of music, et cetera. We've had 2 calls since September 1st at King Jug, and they were, those measurements, one was 72 and one was upper 60s. And that was right at the stage.
You got a motion on the floor, Cecilia.
Yeah, okay. So Bill made a motion to amend the decibel reading to 75. Is there second? No second? So your motion's denied. So is there any more discussion or anything on how it is right now? Anybody?
Motion to approve proposed ordinance.
So Brad DeReamer has a motion to approve the ordinance as it stands. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John Weingart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're an aye? You're a nay? Okay, so we've got, and I'm a nay too. Honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like we need to do a little bit more to this. But so I'm going to kind of leave it as a no too. So I'm
So the motion will fail and the current noise ordinance will stay for another month. Which is 90.
So,
Which is 90.
Yep.
You don't have 5 votes.
You're not going to be enforcing at 80, we're now enforcing at 90.
We can enforce what's on the books, yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
well, then I don't want to do that then, because I'm sorry, but I don't want to do that. I'm not happy with how this whole thing is going. So you're right. I didn't really think it that way, but I'm going to amend my vote.
It'd be allow you to bring it back next month.
I'm going to amend my vote. I'm sorry. I'm amending my vote. Can I do?
The motion's already been done. I'm sorry.
I can't change it?
No,
Okay.
the motion's done.
Well.
I just want to be clear for expectations of anyone in the crowd that there isn't going to be the ability to enforce anything for the next 30 days beyond the 90 that we already have. And then if council wants to bring this back, we'll have to get some direction on what they want to bring it back at.
Well, I appreciate everything that's been done, but I don't feel that we've looked at it in different ways. I've been getting a lot of complaints from residents as well, and I'm not sure I'm happy with how it's going.
Now they're 90, and so they're.
You're right back.
Now it's more back to 90 instead of bringing it to 80, at least trying that. I mean, it is.
And then what if later we bring it back and do it again?
Well, but let's keep this in mind. It's late October, band season's nearly over, and this is going to give us time to address it over the winter.
And I think one thing that would benefit our police department too is I think we have a framework now for what the noise ordinance should be. It's just picking a number that, we think isn't going to have adverse impacts across the city. So let's hopefully we can build some consensus with council or provide some direction on that. And then in the meantime, like I said earlier, there are these other levers that can be very effective in dealing with some of these issues, and we'll try to accomplish that as well.
But to Bill's point, the season's kind of over. Like in September, things are kind of, the peak season happened earlier in the summertime as well. So
It's almost winter. And if he's, if the bar owner is serious about going to 100% acoustic like we heard tonight. I mean, I think that solves the problem.
Anyway, okay. All right, well, moving on, we do not have any planning or zoning items. We do not have any unfinished or new business. We are going to go open up now for community comments. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Is it okay if I put this on top of this? Is it going to mess anything up? Or should I move it? I'm Stephanie Hunt. I live at 9732 Stablestone Terrace. Good evening. I come before you tonight as a resident of Fishers, the president of Fishers Pride, and as someone who believes that to be a truly inclusive city, our leadership must set the example of how to embrace all citizens. On Saturday, September 7th, myself and around 1,199 of my friends and family joined together at Holy Family Episcopal in Fishers to celebrate love, uniqueness, and embracing people as their authentic selves. I say 1,199 because while we counted around 1,200 attendees, someone from Fishers 1 felt it was necessary to attend an event they did not support, to video parts of our day, and then used out-of-context still shots from that video to stir up drama and unnecessary hate towards a loving group of humans. Those still shots were then presented to you as part of an attempt to demonize an event that was peaceful, fun, inclusive, and fully embracing of the history of Pride. What it really did was exploit children to use them as political pawns. This childish, manipulative move left innocent people in our community feeling attacked in fear of retaliation for simply celebrating others and shattered the peaceful image our leadership desperately desires for our city. Tonight, I want to shine a spotlight on the persistent and disgusting attacks a small group of people in Fishers are known for around this state against a group of people whose whole existence is based on love. That little show that was put on by Fishers 1 and legitimized by a city council requesting a police investigation into our event fueled the hate and vitriol of some of our other narrow-minded citizens who were threatening harm to Holy Family and its staff. They did nothing to deserve those attacks, nor should they have had to endure that fear. Words have power, especially when used to bully a marginalized community. As leaders, you allowed people who did not even attend our Fishers Pride event to come here, spew hate and lies, and then you bit their bait hook, line, and sinker. You had an opportunity to show our city is not what those around us believe, that we are hateful, unwilling to accept those who are not exactly like us, and that the LGBTQ community needs to be afraid to live here. Since last month's meeting, your silence had power too. Just because you do not understand the lifestyle or love of another person, you do not get to partake in the persecution of members of this community, especially when you are in a position of power and leadership. That makes you appear weak and malevolent when constituents need you. A Fishers police officer was parked in the parking lot in view of the stage for the entire event. If there had been any child abuse as alleged, that officer would have acted immediately, as he is so well trained to do, to protect the children in attendance. Our officers helped everyone feel secure, safe from the very people who I am responding to tonight, and were most definitely respectful of our attendees, unlike the people who did not attend but had opinions from this room. We hope you will join us next year to see the experience for yourself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Gregory McKay. I am a member of the citizen government class. The reason I am speaking is because while I am here for because of the citizen government class and this being a requirement, I thought it would also be a good idea to share with you some locations where I think it would be a good idea for the ever-increasing number of traffic circles here. I have 4 locations in mind. Number 1, Municipal and Lantern. It seems like the Nickel Plate District is an ever-growing area and becoming ever popular. And I think to accommodate the need for the increasing amount of traffic there, a traffic circle should be built there so that you can get there more quickly. and to ease the flow of traffic, because I've noticed driving to the library that sometimes you have to wait a few seconds to get out. The other locations, those are Hague and 106 and Promise and 106. Those currently have traffic signals there, and they are both two major two-lane roads which come together. There's a signal there. I think that you should, sometime in the future, build a traffic circle at those locations, because it would greatly make it easier to get from the one street to another, and then you wouldn't have to stop. And, well, you would, but you wouldn't have to stop as long. And the fourth and final location where I think that a traffic circle would be a good idea is 106 and Eller, because there is currently a four-way stop there, and I think it would be a good idea because you could more easily get to the other streets, and you wouldn't have to stop as long, given there are no cars coming from the other street, and you follow the rules of traffic. You can just go right through without having to stop for traffic that is not there. So that's what I think.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Gregory McKay.
Greg's done a great job at Citizens Government Academy. He's been awesome to have there.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Josh User, 12863 Shakespeare Way. Just a quick inquiry for the council. Where would I find a copy of the rules of procedure?
The copy, that's our attorney, Chris Greisel, is in charge of that.
Okay, and you'd be able to provide a copy? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come up and state your name for the record.
My name is Mary Jensen. Do you need address?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 11173 Hearthstone Drive in Fishers. I just wanted to comment on the Fishers Pride event. I wanted to thank the organizers in the committee for putting on the Pride event. It was a really heartwarming event. There were families there with their children, and it was so great to see people just happy in their own skin and being in such an accepting environment. I'm speaking as a parent of members of the LGBT community, and it was just such a great positive event. What was heartbreaking was the fallout from the event and all of the negative things on social media. It was really upsetting to see the families and the children hurting from everybody calling them out and seeing all the pictures of kids posted, parents who didn't give permission for their kids to be posted. Although it wasn't illegal, it still hurt them. They didn't want their kids to be posted. Their kids were in supposedly a safe space, but here they were looking online and seeing pictures posted without their permission. So after such a heartwarming, great event that really, my husband and I were talking about how it just filled our hearts, and wishing that our kids could have felt when they were younger and questioning how they could have been in such a safe space, than to see it kind of fall apart. It was hard to see that. And I don't know how it felt for the parents. And the moms, the two moms or the two dads who felt like they were in a safe place to be ripped apart. And I just wanted to share that, but also publicly thank the committee who put on Fishers Pride, and I look forward to having more in the future and have Fishers embrace that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll say one thing about that real quick. I think in our culture, we've lost sight of being able to sit down and talk to people. I've too have had my family put online with my children's eyes crossed out in political posts. And so I understand the fallout firsthand, not of that particular situation, of a different situation. So I just think that, you know, while people may fall on different sides of conversations and disagreements about whatever in life, we better find a way to get off social media and actually talk to people and get to know people as human beings, regardless of where that is. And then at the same time, when there's law enforcement needed for whatever purpose, I'm not talking about this, just any purpose, that then they'll handle that based on the law. But I hope people at some point learn it before it's too late. So
Yes.
that's just my.
Yes, I will point out that LGBTQ plus is not political.
Yeah, I know. I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Thank
Mine
you.
was, had nothing,
Yeah,
that was
okay.
nothing to do with any of that.
Okay,
No,
good.
that was just,
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks
just
for
giving an
clarifying that.
example of
Yeah,
when your family's put out there
yeah.
in a
Okay.
horrific way, right.
Thank you.
I-
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, my name is Samantha Kern. I live at 12988 Sinclair Place. I've been a resident of Fishers for 8 years. I'm a wife, a small business owner, a Fishers Pride board member, and a mom to a perfect gay 11-year-old girl. I've spent the last 8 years in this city building my circle with other moms, neighbors, and customers who have frequented my business. I have sat through school board meetings and volunteered at our schools in various capacities. When I first heard that Fishers needed volunteers to help establish and organize our city's first ever Pride Festival, I immediately knew I needed to get involved, not only as the parent to a gay child, but also an advocate and ally to the LGBTQIA community. We made the Spark Parade our debut event. Waiting in the parking lot before the parade, my stomach was in knots. I relied on the camaraderie of our group to keep everyone safe and specifically to make sure that my daughter was safe because I was not able to walk beside her. We rolled down 116th Street during the parade, and I was blown away by the level of enthusiasm and acceptance that we encountered. People were cheering and going wild for our group. By the end of it, none of us could stop gushing about the uplifting reception we had received. Months of planning, fundraising, and organizing went by, and we nailed it. September 11th arrived, and I worked the welcome booth of the first ever Fishers Pride Festival. I greeted and chatted with hundreds of community members, some of whom admitted that they had lived here for decades, but had felt isolated by our community. By the time that the drag performers came on stage, I took a break to see my child having the absolute time of her life, cheering on the drag performers, laughing, singing, tipping them with homemade friendship bracelets, and smiling from ear to ear. I'm sure you've all seen pictures of her as they've circulated our community. She exuded happiness and joy. 2 days prior to Pride, my gay daughter endured a long bus ride home with a few classmates taunting her with holy oil and telling her that God doesn't love her. They threatened to out her to the school and use the guise of religion to shame her. This was not the first time that her peers have made those remarks or she's had to worry about her safety. I've sat with her at local restaurants and pretended not to hear the snide remarks being said about her from other adults in our community. But at Pride, she was secure, she was free, she was confident. She told me, I walked into Pride not knowing if I would see anyone I knew. When I was there, everyone was so nice. I didn't have to worry about anyone making fun of me. I would have brought her here to tell you that all on her own, but the reality is that I don't know that I feel safe with her in this room with some of these people who want nothing more than to condemn her for who she is. I already worry about that at the bus, at school, on our streets, and in our restaurants. And I would be worried about her for just being her authentic self and receiving backlash and hate from the only hometown she has ever known. I never worried about that when she was with the drag queens. My ask to you is that we continue with the Pride Festival exactly as we should to serve the population that needs it. If you don't support it, then don't show up. But don't try to enforce a ban on Pride or drag simply because you don't understand it or you don't need it. There are people in our city who are in need of a safe place to just exist and support one another. That's what Pride was and will continue to be about. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Brett Anderson, 8899 Mole Drive. I don't have any big complaints about anything. I just want to thank Megan, Ross, and Bill, and the mayor. I have a sidewalk. Finally, we have a sidewalk. I'm very happy. Sorry everybody has life problems with pride and joy and all this other stuff, but I can walk on my sidewalk now and just worry about sidewalk etiquette when you meet somebody else on the sidewalk. So, thank you.
We were able to get it done.
Thank you. And it's a nice one, too. It's almost like the Golden Brick Road, too.
Yeah, it meanders a bit, yeah.
It is a very nice sidewalk. I drove down that road today with my wife, and there was a mom with her young child on that sidewalk.
Yes, a lot more people.
Well, you should pat yourself on the back for persistence, because
Well, we got
without
that.
your drawing attention to it, I'm.
Now, if we
certain
just
you'd
get a
like it.
load of asphalt for about a 2-foot speed bump. Slow things down.
Pushing your luck.
Yeah, just, I'll tell you right where it could go, and we'll slow everything down. Or maybe some kind of a imaginary police car sitting there every now and then, but. That's it. That's the one. Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking there should be a sidewalk there, because, yes, you can take the nickel plate trail if you are exercising things, by the way. Yes, I still think there should be more regional trails, but, yeah, you're right. If you want to go down Lantern Road, you would have to walk through people's lawn.
That's right.
So now with that sidewalk, you don't have to do that.
Yep. It's great.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, my name's Sarah Renfro. I live at 11155 Cool Winds Way. And I am glad to be here and be part of the Fishers Pride community. I've lived here for 9 years, and I was honored to be part of the mental health initiative back in the day, which started Stigma-Free Fishers. And I have enjoyed this community for being diverse, inclusive of all faiths and religions. And it was Fishers Pride Fest was just a joyful day, and I've taken my daughter down to Indy Pride for years, and she's a 13-year-old, and so it was so nice to have one here in town. And the only thing she was upset about is she didn't get tinsel in her hair because that cost extra money, and I wasn't willing to pay. So I just appreciate Fishers Pride, the folks that are around here, and I look forward to more conversation, and that is peaceful, and that we can get away from the hate and ugliness that is spewed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Anybody else? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. Did you have something to say, Brad? I appreciate everybody's comments and emails regarding, Pride. I want to clarify that, no laws were broken and no further action will be taken. We appreciate everybody's comments. So thank you. Brad?
Got 4 comments. Just one for clarification. The Fishers Pride, the city of Fishers had nothing to do with that, so that there's not a connection between the city and that. That was a private organization. Okay. 2, Mike, would you stand up, please? I would like to commend the Fishers Police Department for their sleeves for honoring Breast Cancer Month. Thank you very much. I sure appreciate that. Hatim, I appreciate the city of Fishers enforcing our ordinance on political signs and picking them up. But if we could educate the people doing that, if it's in the county, the little neighborhoods we have that are county and not in the city, the right-of-way is 1 rod. 1 rod is 16.5 feet from the center line, 5.5 paces if they want to pace it. Tell them to pace 5.5 feet from the center line. They picked up a lot of signs this week that were in the county, not in the right-of-way, and unfortunately threw them away and cost the politicians money. So if you could educate them, if it's in the city, yeah, but But if it's in the county, which we have,
We shouldn't be picking up signs that aren't in the
Yeah.
city anyways. And
So-
I appreciate your old surveyor.
yeah, it's one rod,
language there.
one rod,
Yeah.
16 and a half feet. Thank you. And then, let's see, I think that's it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by John Weingart. Is there a second? Second by Todd Zimmerman. We're adjourned. Thank you.